This is the second build log. Most of the parts came already. I sold off the RX 480 to a guy and had some extra money, so I ended up getting a 980 Ti EVGA classified for only 160. It was a pretty good deal. If I can by Christmas, I'm gonna try and upgrade from X58 to X79 because simply I get like weird malfunctions typically when I try to lower the voltage on X58. Like Windows just like takes really long to load, like abnormally long, and you get like weird stutters every like 5 minutes. It plays well in Rust and Battlefield 1, the games I was playing. 980 Ti though, I'm not thinking about overclocking it because that cooler barely cools it. Like sometimes when I first set it on auto, it would get up to like 80 degrees C, just with auto fans. So I just keep it at 95% now most of the time, and that keeps it like below 70 most of the time. That's still not thermal throttle range, but I don't want to risk it because this case is pretty cramped. This is still the Sleeper PC though, so we're inside of a Dell Dimension 3000 case. It was a case from my childhood that we used. Thinking about also upgrading the power supply. This is only a 600 watt, and from overclocking the W3670 and from just the 250 TDP of the 980 Ti, I'm pretty much pushing it. I only got like 30 watts literally left. So if I overclocked anything more, I'd be like, I don't know if this thing could turn on. I'm thinking about, if I do upgrade to X79, buying a different cooler, because this cooler is, for overclockers, and it's just barely below. It's like 152 millimeters, and when I put the side panel on, it's like just barely not touching it. Probably like by like a decimal of a millimeter. Probably gonna buy some like Delta industrial fans because this is a 120 millimeter Reven fan that I got here, and I have to zip tie that on, if you can see that. Funny thing though, I use a separate zip tie so the zip tie didn't get caught up in the fan. Then I got a 92 over here, so I'm thinking about getting two 92 millimeter Delta fans that get like 110 CFM. So I just get 110 CFM intake, and then exhaust, and then plus the power supply one, and probably get one of those Noctua U9Ss because that's like 140 millimeters max with the two fans, and then I could just be going straight from here through there rather than trying to take up from there and then exit, because all the air is just going straight to the power supply, and when I'm running it I can feel it back there. I just feel extremely hot. If you stick your hand right in here, you got we got the air from the 980 Ti, which is of course hot, going straight into the CPU fan, plus any air that the Northbridge can take. It just sucks in onto the Northbridge heatsink. So you got a lot of air right here, so there's not a lot of free air you can just use, even when the side panel's off. So until I get like an X79 and that new CPU cooler and fans, I'm probably not going to put the side panel on while I'm like running games. Got about like 12 gigabytes of Samsung RAM. It's like generic RAM, but X50A is pretty well known for just accepting most types of RAM, like even if they're pretty crappy. I managed to get these to 1866 on a 99910 1N sequence. I'm running just about a 1 terabyte HDD. I was thinking about, just because for nostalgia reasons, to put this DVD drive in here, but I ended up just not using it because it's just, I don't have any real CD games, and I just left it unplugged because it just takes more watts and watts I need to actually overclock the CPU. Right now I'm about 4.2 gigahertz stable on about 1.32. It gets up to like 80 C on load at max when I was running IDA64 for like 20 minutes. I was Tech City when he ran a video. He was just talking about how you only need to run IDA64 for 5 minutes, but I just feel safe around the 10 to 20 minute range if it doesn't get above 80 like 2. Because like lower 80s, like 81, 82, 83 is the max I feel like you should ever be getting. Because when you get into the mid 80s, you can just a bit more intensive, and your CPU is just gonna throttle. If I do get X79, I can use this ECC RAM I have left over from a Z400 workstation I had. It's about 16 gigabytes of 1600. I could probably OC it to like 1866 or 2000. Because then with X79, I can buy like a $55 E5 2680, and that way I would have 8 cores. And from watching a Linus video, if just from the sheer amount of L3 cache they have, I can get up to like Core i9 performance. So that way my 980 Ti isn't bottlenecked when I go to 1440p. That should be pretty nice for just like 1440p, like stable like 60 or like upper 50s. Because I needed at least a 980 Ti or 1070 for some of the game titles coming up, like Anthem or Cyberpunk 2077. Because for 1440p, I could either get an R9 Fury X or 980 Ti just for the price range that I was looking at. And I chose 980 Ti because 4 gigabytes of VRAM for 1440p is kind of pushing it. So I'd have to, if I had 4 gigabytes with an R9 Fury X, I'd have to change up the settings for some games to like truly work. So with the 980 Ti, I got 6 gigabytes, which is all you need for 1440p currently. And for 1080p, which is what I'm currently running with this huge TV, old Samsung TV, it's a plasma screen. The thing weighs like 50 pounds, but I get a huge 1080p screen. So yeah, right now, CPU is throttling the 980 Ti, like, bottlenecking. And I can tell that with 4.2 gigahertz, you get about like a bit lower than i7 4770 performance, but you get 6 cores. So if you want to do like video and rendering or streaming, it would definitely help. But yeah, do keep in mind that the X58, when you start getting up into those upper 4 gigahertz range, it gets really heated. So like this is a Scythe cooler that's it was about like $70. I'm trying to remember what the actual model of it is. It's like CNP 10. It was the Scythe Performa, but it was when I was looking at some websites like Frosty Tech or Gamers Nexus, they were saying how this was slightly better than the 212, and I just had extra money to spend. So yeah, the main purpose of this build is I'm trying to recreate like a sleeper PC, like you see in like Linus's videos or the other videos. The only crappy thing about it is there's little tiny prongs that go into the case to keep the front panel on. Funny thing about this thing is the front prongs on this side were totally fine, but then the 2 prongs, 2 of the 3 on this side were just broken off, like someone just snapped them. So what I did was I took 2 zip ties, and I literally just went and drilled a hole through it, and I wrapped it around the metal, and then just tightened it. So then if I wanted to take this off to actually change out things, I'd have to cut the zip ties. But good thing I got like a supply of 30 of them, so I can just keep doing that. I don't plan on, really upgrading the front panel as much until I get that like one fan. And those Delta fans have like 80,000 hour lifespan, so you could run it like 24/7 for like years. Funny thing about this is that I don't have a floppy disk drive, but I think it just looked cool. I didn't want people seeing in through the floppy disk drive, so I just put a couple layers of electrical tape just down on that, so you just got black. You don't see anything. So far, for about like the month I've been using this so far in this configuration, the electrical tape is held up. Maybe next time when I take the front panel off, I'll replace it with something new. So yeah, that's my next build log. This X58 MSI board, it was one of like the lower tier ones. It's a micro ATX, so its VRM is not exactly good. So that's why I put those mods there, the copper plates. It cools down a bit, but mostly when you want X58, you're going to want a huge air cooler just to push air onto the VRM and out. Otherwise, like the entire case is going to get heated up to like 50°C. And that is not good at all. Funny thing about this is if you truly wanted like a sleeper PC and still wanted like floppy disk and stuff, this MSI motherboard does have IDE and the old floppy disk ones you can put in there. For the front panel of this case, I did have to cut off the audio jack, so I don't have that aux right there works. The USBs don't work, but that's not from the USBs in the front panel just not working, but the actual port on the MSI one, I think it's just broken, because other cases I've had where I tried to plug in the USB into the USB 1 slot, it just never worked. So I'm assuming every time I plug something in, I just plug it in directly to the back of the motherboard. I'm running DVI to this 1080p, and the new monitor I'm getting is 1440, You get about 76 hertz refresh rate. It was a really cheap HP mod. It came with a